They don't do that in Europe anymore. And to travel in Africa, you need so many visas. My friend, so we believe it can also be done on the African continent. Africa, as you know, cannot move forward when it cannot even trade with itself. As we are speaking today, the intra-African trade stands at 15%. Inter-European trade stands at 70%. Intra-Asian trade stands at 60%. Even South America, 35%. Africa, only 15%. What are the impediments? The impediments are: one, non-tariff barriers imposed by different countries on the continent. Secondly, lack of infrastructure in the continent, making it very difficult for goods to move from one country to the other country. And that is why I said we need to take this animal called infrastructure head on. The Trans-African highways, the Trans-African high-speed network, the open skies in the continent, and so on. As things stand today, to travel within the African continent by air is a problem. They are taxing you to fly over air, open air. And you must get a license to fly over one country to the other country. They don't do that in Europe anymore. And to travel in Africa, you need so many visas. My friend, and our friend with General Aliko Dangote, one of the biggest African entrepreneurs, says that for him to travel across the continent, he needs 35 visas. His French counterpart, who's a business like himself, does not need a visa because he's having a French passport. With a French passport, you don't need a visa to travel across Africa. With a Nigerian passport, you need 35 visas to travel across the continent. What a shame. So we are going to introduce African Union visas that can enable you to travel across the whole continent without requiring to have any visas at all. Will make it easier for people to travel, to trade within the continent of Africa. We will also open borders so that goods can move freely. We will work towards construction of the African high-speed railway network, with African road networks. We will also address the issue of energy. Energy is a major impediment to development in the continent. Yes, Africa has got abundance of energy sources. Hydro, solar, wind, geothermal, you name it. It's all available on the African continent. Yet energy is very expensive. We will make it cheap and accessible to the majority of our people. We will also ensure that we will tackle the issue of climate change. Africa is a victim when it comes to the issue of climate change. Africa only emits less than 5% of greenhouse gases. But Africa suffers the consequences of climate change. Many African countries today live between twin disasters: floods and drought. We need to find ways of dealing with this. But Africa also needs to be compensated by the offenders. To negotiate as individual countries, you get nowhere.